Hey, hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're taking a look at another knife by TwoSun. This is the TwoSun TS17-G10. There is G10 handles on here, and there's a titanium version, which is much harder to find. This knife is fairly hard to find the way it is, being their 17th knife. They've got a very simple numbering system, TwoSun does. TS and then the number 17. This is their 17th knife. They're into the 200s right now for their newest knives. So it's easy to tell how long ago the knife was initially put into production with TwoSun just by looking at the model number of the knife. TS17-G10, black G10 and a satin blade. This is a modified Tanto blade, fairly thick, but not a huge folder. This is a big folder. It's a medium to big size folder, not extra big at all. My hands are between large and extra large, and I just have the grip. The handle is just barely ending in my hand there. So if you've got hands that are between large and extra large, between 10 and 11 in European sizes, men's glove sizes, or smaller, then this knife is a very good fit for you. If you've got bigger hands, but you like knives that are a little bit on the smaller side for your hands, hey, this is a good choice. We've got a nice fuller on the blade, D2 steel, night morning design. Let's take a good close look at it. We're going to put it on the tabletop. Keep watching. The full review is coming to you right now. First off, I'm going to do a little size comparison. This is the Ontario Rat 1. And here's the TwoSun TS17. And as you can clearly see, the handle is shorter. The blades, the cutting edge lengths are about the same. If you put the cutting edges next to each other, it's actually, the Rat is a little bit less of a cutting edge than this knife, but the handle's a little smaller on the TwoSun. But so there you go. It's a good size folding knife. The G10 has got this hex pattern on it, sort of reminiscent of a soccer ball, I guess. Football for the Brits or the UK people in our. Is there a UK word like UKians, United Kingdomites? If you're from England, you're English. But what is it if you're from the UK? What do you? I don't know if there's a word for that. If there is, let me know. I'm kind of curious. If you're from Ireland, you're Irish. But the UK, I didn't. Oh well. We've got a G10 backspacer back here, and we've got pocket clip, 2 screws in the pocket clip, 1 body screw at the back of the handle, and the pivot screw. Those are both T8. These 2 screws are T8s. It's a flipper. It's a liner lock. Lockup is very good for a brand new knife. There's lots of room for it to wear across, but it's full engagement. A little bit of jimping on the liner lock release. Easy to disengage the lock. Alignment when it's closed is very close to perfect, very good. As you can see, it's a thick blade in here, and I'll give you the full measurements later on. There's a flipper tab right there with 3 little jimps in the flipper tab, but check that out. There's not much of a flipper tab sticking out. I've had a lot of knives that have huge flipper tabs, and sometimes I've complained about that a little bit. This guy is on the other end. It's a little small, but it's easy enough to use. I would just wish it was, just a tiny bit bigger. Works flip like the light switch method, pulling back and push down a little bit on a slight angle, and that works like the push button method. Easy enough to use. Easy to disengage the lock, both right-handed and left-handed. It's actually more comfortable in my left hand than the right, and that's because of the pocket clip. The pocket clip on some of the early TwoSun knives, I'm not sure if it's all of them or if it's just some of the night morning designs. You've got this pocket clip with these 2 screws that go on an odd angle compared to the angle of the pocket clip. And because of the way they've done that, this is a right side only pocket clip. They wouldn't even be able to put it on this side if they tried. They'd have to put on a different pocket clip. It's got a bit of a curve to it along, that line there. And it sticks out a fair ways right there. Like if you can see how far it sticks out right there. And that creates a little bit of a hot spot on the tip. What I will be trying after I'm finished the review is I'm going to try to bend that down a little bit to try to make it a little less hot in the hand. This part back here is okay. It's just right there at that tip. If anybody knows where you can get third-party replacement pocket clips for these TwoSun knives that have, this alignment for the screws, please let me know. I'm very curious. I'd like to try some. Because I'll also be reviewing the this is the TS17. I think I got the TS16. And I'll be reviewing that in the upcoming weeks as well. And it's got the same kind of pocket clip. The screws and the hardware is made very well. High quality screws. They're a bit bigger, more robust than most, and made to high tolerances. Steel liners, lots of skeletonizing on the show side liner. The working side liner with the liner lock and stuff doesn't have any skeletonizing. But the knife isn't very heavy at all. It's well under 4 ounces and quite functional. So now we're going to take the knife apart. I've taken the 2 screws out, and they are very good quality screws indeed. Very high-end, nice heavy-duty screws. T8 on both of them. And on the pocket clip screws, those are T8s as well. There you go. So this side has got the ceramic ball bearing, no skeletonizing, and this side has got skeletonizing, quite a bit of skeletonizing to help bring the weight down. There's a pin for alignment, and of course 1 body screw and the ceramic ball bearings in a nylon housing. You've got that captured stop pin, or the stop pin that's on the inside. As you can see here, there's the track that it slides along, and that's where it gets exposed on the outside. Very simply, well made, and although this could be a free spinning pivot pin, it just doesn't. I've taken this knife apart and other TwoSun knives that are built the same way, and none of them have been free spinning in practice, although they technically could. Let's put it back together and continue. The blade, you can see the shape of the blade right there. It is a special blade. A little bit of an upsweep on the spine of the blade, and then, it's sort of a drop point here, and then a tanto kind of tip, a bit of a radius or a belly on the blade here, just like the Japanese tantos have, and then a recurve on the back part of the blade here, the main cutting edge. I like recurves. Recurves are very easy to use. I've got some new stones from Gritomatic. I still have to do a review on them, and hopefully I'll get that review out in January as well. Stones that are made for recurves, and they're diamond stones, and they are super efficient for sharpening. They work very, very well. I don't mind recurves at all. It's quite easy to sharpen recurves if you've got a good guided sharpening system. If you sharpen by hand on flat stones, it's a little more tricky, but on guided systems, it works quite well. This knife, the plunge right here, is a good one, and then you've got a nice sharpener's choil, so it's easy to sharpen it right to the end of the blade here. And there's a fuller here, and it looks like a bead blasted fuller, so I guess they bead blasted the knife and then they did the final grinds on it. So a nice satin finish with that nice sort of teardrop fuller, which I think is quite good indeed, quite good looking. So a nice satin finish, and that fuller looks really nice. One thing you'll notice is there's a slight issue that I have with this knife, and that is on this side, the grind here for the tanto front, it meets up exactly where the transition is down here. But on this side, it's a couple millimeters off, not 1/8 of an inch, just a few millimeters off. The tip's there, and then the line is there if you're looking right at my finger. That's a little mistake. Not a major problem though, because remember, this knife is just a little over $30. White Mountain Knives has this knife for $34.99, but you get 10% off when you use my coupon code CCE, and then it equals $31.49. So $31.50 US for this. White Mountain Knives doesn't have this in stock right now, but I talked to Justin over at White Mountain Knives a 2 days ago, whatever it was. And he says when he gets them back in stock, they'll be the same price. So, go on to the page. I've got a link down below. Fill in your address on the Notify Me link that he has on the page for this. And then when he gets them in stock, you'll be notified. So there you go. It's comfortable in the hand. The blade's got a forward weight because, it's so thick right up until, that main last bevel section starts. So it's the full thickness all the way along the spine. A nice saber grind here. That's a flat grind that doesn't go up to the spine. And then you've got this, grind that comes to the tip right here. This is a very, very strong tip. Like if you wanted to go digging with this knife, stick it in something and pry on something hard, it's going to survive very, very well compared to most other knives. But I don't recommend that kind of action with the knife. That's what a pry bar is for. And there's lots of really nice pocket pry bars in the market these days. I suggest you get one if you find yourself prying every once in a while with your knife. So D2 steel, G10 steel liners, pocket clip is steel as well, G10 back spacer, no lanyard hole, and a very well designed, nice knife. I don't call this a fantasy knife. Some people might, but I think this is a very usable knife, very functional for a lot of different tasks. The tip is very strong, and yet it's functional for piercing into things as well. And, with a recurve and a belly here, this knife can cut so many different things. This is not a camp food prep knife, but just about anything else, this knife will work. Except for huge tasks. You're not going to be chopping down a tree with this thing or taking off limbs or anything. But it's a good, for the size of the knife, very, very functional, usable knife. Now, as long as this is on a screen, hopefully I remember to take it off at the end, is while I do the measurements and specs. I'll take this away when I'm done doing the specs. So let's see what we've got. We've got a weight of 132 grams, which is 4.65 ounces. So just a little over 4.5 ounces. Did I say it's under 4 ounces? I think I misspoke earlier. Yeah, 4.65 ounces, good weight. The factory edge, and I did it on the belly here, the recurve belly, the factory sharpness is 185 best, which is good. The cutting edge length, so tip to the sharpener's choil right here, 9.12 centimeters, 3.59 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the handle, 8.99 centimeters, 3.54 inches. So basically a little over 3.5 inch blade. The thickness of this blade here is 3.87. The thickness of the blade is 3.81 millimeters, which is 0.15 of an inch, so well over 1/8 of an inch thick. The blade depth, and I measured it right here where the transition between the tanto and the rest of the blade happens, 3 centimeters, 1.18 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind right here, 0.46 millimeters, which is 0.018 inches, so nice and thin behind the grind, just like I like it. The grind angle, this side is 17.7 degrees, and on this side, it's 19.6 degrees. Not bad. Almost nobody does a factory sharpness where they sharpen both sides exactly the same. It's not unusual at all, especially on knives that are under $100, which this one definitely is. It's a third of that, or just over a third of that. Some more measurements, talking about the handle now. The handle length is 11.19 centimeters, 4.41 inches. The grip area is 9.7 centimeters, 3.82 inches. The handle thickness, not counting pocket clip, is 1.57 centimeters, which is 0.62 of an inch. The handle depth, its biggest right here, 2.81 centimeters, 1.11 inches. And when the knife is closed, its largest right there, I don't count where the flipper is, right here is 3.38 centimeters, 1.33 inches, so 1 1/3 inches. And the total length of this knife, when the blade's deployed tip to the end, is 20.1 centimeters, which is 7.91 inches. So just under 8 inches long with a full length. The balance point is right where you want it to be. And as I said, with this thick blade here and then the stock getting deeper this way, it's a little forward heavy, not very much so. If I showed you the balance, it's just well balanced. And having this handle get a little thick back here or deep, it just has a very good grippiness to it. Fairly smooth surface, chamfering all the way around on the G10. The hex grinding, the milled out lines in a hex shape. It offers good grip. Very little jimping on here, a little bit on the back spine there, on the back spacer, and then here on the liner release in the flipper, and that's it. And it works very, very well for grip in the hand. Using it for, 15, 20 minutes in a row, it does get a little hot in the hand right there. So if I'm holding it like this, if I'm squeezing for a while, it creates a little bit of a hot spot right there on my hand, which I don't prefer. Just on the right hand, though. And I don't mind this knife in my left pocket clip. In my left pocket, it carries very well and, ready to use when I need it quite quickly. Blade design is one of the unique features on this knife. I like it. The fuller's a really nice touch. The handle's good. Some more pros are the hardware, good high-end hardware. And even though it's not a locked pivot pin, there's no problem taking the pivot pin apart, taking it apart. Ceramic ball bearing, ceramic detent, perfect tension on the flip, on the locker, liner lock right there. It's a well-made knife. Good alignment, lock up, no blade play side to side, up and down. The alignment, as I said, lock up position, it's all very good. What are the cons? Well, again, this pocket clip that I mentioned before, and the flipper. I'd like it to be just a little bit bigger. That's another con. And the final con is the grind execution. I wish it was a little bit better on this side. It's not terrible, but they should have cut this at the factory and, toss the blade out and start it again, because once you've got this grind up like that, it's basically done, unless you want to make the blade even thinner, because you'd have to regrind the main bevel here. But it's a $31 knife, $31.50. So is that really that big of a deal? No, not to me. It's not that big of a deal. I like this knife quite a lot. If you're in the market for a knife like this, if you are willing to overlook the issues with the pocket clip, and you are fairly skilled with a flipper, and you're not concerned about that flipper tab being a little smaller, you might actually like that flipper tab being smaller. Because, I don't like a flipper tab that's too big, and there's a lot of other people that don't. The pros that are on this knife are just so good that I think it outweighs the other kind of issues, and somehow I got my fingers dirty. This plastic material or sponge material is starting to come apart, leaving mess on my fingers. Oh well. It's a good knife. I like it. I stand behind it. I recommend it. If you're in the market, follow my links down below. White Mountain Knives is a good place to go. eBay does have one auction on this right now from a vendor that I've purchased from before, so I'll have a link down for that too. When I'm doing this review, it's at $20, so just don't go over $31.50, and you'll be fine. So thanks for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. I don't answer my comments that much down below the video for a variety of reasons that I won't get into. But if you really need to talk to me, email me at canadiancuttingedge@gmail.com, and I will respond to you. I say within 2 days. It's usually within a couple hours, but you just never know what happens with my health. And sometimes I'm just down for a couple of days, but I am still slowly getting better and better all the time. So thanks for those of you guys and gals who are praying for me, concerned for me, having good positive thoughts for me. I appreciate it. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. One guy wrote in a couple of days ago and said, ooh, he cut himself in the thumb, and he could hear my voice warning him not to do that. Stay safe out there, guys. Till next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.